It's just one of those mornings where what a gorgeous, beautiful morning it is.
Is this not the most beautiful spring you have ever seen? Yeah, and we were talking about it the other day. I said, have we not just paid attention to other springs? And I said, no. And Karen yesterday was talking to the fellow who lives at the Rainy Wildlife Refuge for Audubon. He is their administrator out there, and he lives out on the refuge. And so she asked him, she said, Timmy, have I just missed it? And he said, I am 68 years old, and I will tell you this is the most beautiful spring I have ever witnessed in Louisiana.
I think it's just, if you believe in the verisimilitudes of fates, it's because we're all shut in. And we can't have festivals, you think about it.
God has a sense of humor.
No Strawberry Festival this year. There was no Italian Festival in Independence. There was no Oyster Festival in Amite. There was, we're just not, no French Quarter Festival, no Jazz and Heritage Festival. Yikes.
I understand. God is functioning as the fashion police, and he's trying to kill muscle shirts on men that have no muscles below their arms. And tattoos on women. That's it. No festivals.
And people,
God has a sense of humor.
And people who should never be seen dancing who do.
Oh. Send us your happy place.
But it is a gorgeous morning. I don't know what they're selling over there at Trader Joe's down the way. We're at La Divina Italian Cafe. What is the name of the shopping center, Bill? Do you know?
It's
I can never remember the name of the shopping center.
It's called that really new shopping center that used to be a Walmart at the corner of Perkins and Acadian.
And La Divina, by the way, is open right now, and you can get a delicious breakfast. And don't forget La Divina for lunch or for dinner. You can call them, and they'll arrange a contact-free handoff at your car window. And in some cases, they'll even deliver, or you can order through Uber Eats. But the number here at La Divina is 225-771-8488. But I was going to mention Trader Joe's. I don't know what they're selling down there, but the line to get into Trader Joe's is already down here past the door of La Divina.
Lance is going out with scissors. He's going to cut somebody.
Lance says it's to the Ruby Slipper.
He's one of those.
Now, I'm mentioning the name of a competitor. What am I doing?
Yeah, it's not the same.
He wants to mention your name, you pay.
You pay. And Lance is one of those Florida thugs. When he cuts you with scissors. He doesn't have a flip knife. He's got scissors.
Let's start the program with something nice today. We've talked with Mike Manning, Greater Baton Rouge Food Bank. We've talked about the shape that they're in. Well, some people are trying their best to help out the Greater Baton Rouge Food Bank in achieving their goal. Are our friends with the city of St. George. He's done a great job representing the city of St. George in all matters legal. And he joins us now here at La Divina. Andrew Morrell, attorney at law.
Hey, thanks.
Drew, it's always good to see you.
It's great to be seen.
The food drive last week, how did that go? And we're sorry that we didn't get the opportunity to help promote that one.
It went outstanding. It was something we came up with several weeks ago when we heard about the Greater Baton Rouge Food Bank and the shortage. And we thought, what can we do as the city of St. George? Well, we have a vehicle. We have the St. George Fire Department who does a great job with their food bank drive every Christmas. Let's partner with them. Let's partner with the food bank. Let's get a truck out in the safest manner possible, which is pretty safe. You put your canned goods at the end of the driveway, and the fire truck rolls by, and a couple of volunteers behind them pick it up and stick it in the truck. And so we're hoping to do something. It's one of the things we've talked a lot about St. George helping the entire community, making a greater parish. And this was part of that effort because it goes to the food bank, which serves 11 parishes. And so we thought, what better way to benefit than by doing our part?
Well, and I think you all have the population muscle and the public relations muscle to really help. I mean, when we had Mike Manning on with us, we were horrified by the situation that the food bank has been placed in by this. Multiple problems. Number one, everybody's staying at home, more cooking at home, more buying in the grocery stores so that the groceries don't have surplus to send over to the food bank. Secondly, this is happening all over the country, and now they have to compete to actually buy food. Mike used to be able to say very proudly, I can turn $1 into 10. Now they have to turn 100 into 10. It's tough for them right now, very, very difficult, and they need the help.
And that's it. I think the surprising part was hearing about, since the grocery stores are basically being bought out of everything, that they don't have that surplus to donate. And that's something people normally don't think about. it's something that St. George did this year in a crisis situation, but I foresee us trying to do this event in the middle of summer every year. Everybody thinks about Christmas and toys and food, but these people are still hungry and they still need birthday presents. Their kids do in the middle of summer as well. So I hope it's the start of something we're doing every year.
So this is kind of like the Santa Claus parade model, is that the St. George trucks and pickups and things roll through the neighborhoods.
Didn't reinvent the wheel on this one, Kevin.
Make some noise, and when you hear them coming, you go out there with your check and/or your
That's right.
non-perishables, right?
And because we're trying to be safe, you can also make those donations secure and online at stgeorgelouisiana.com. We've got a link to the food bank, or you can always go to the food bank's website and give your link there and give your donation there. We raised a pretty good amount of money. We got a ton of food in.
Do you mind sharing the poundage if you know it?
I don't know the poundage yet. We were waiting to get a weight on that. I know we raised over $3,000 in cash donations.
Wow. For the first run, that's pretty good.
For the first run, for an event that's never happened before, in a time where people are cash strapped and have other priorities in their lives. So I thought it was amazing. Amazing first weekend.
Now, last weekend, it was neighborhoods that are to the north and the west.
It's like north
and east.
Yes, north and east.
So this time around, which is not, by the way, it's not this weekend. It's not tomorrow, Sunday. It's
next week.
The
Yeah,
next
we didn't want to compete with this holiday called Mother's Day.
Yeah, I think you're wise. But you're going south and west.
That's right,
Airline
south and
Highway.
west. So if you're thinking, if you're in Jefferson Terrace, Inniswald area, that's going to be your weekend. Westminster, that is your weekend. And hopefully we can have an even greater response the second weekend. I'd like to see it eventually where the two halves compete against each other to see who can get the most food.
Well, and again, you got some good high-density neighborhoods that you'll be going through. It'll take a long time to get the fire trucks just through Westminster, which is good.
That's right.
Lots of opportunity to donate.
And look, we're totally at the whim. This is a fire department that is operating continuously. This isn't a shutdown time where they're just volunteering to take the trucks out. If they get a call, they have to leave that route and go or miss a neighborhood. You can always give us a call or an email, and we'll send a volunteer to your house to pick up the food separately. The goal is to raise money. The goal is to raise food donations. And so we're pretty willing, as long as we're safe, to do whatever it takes to make that happen.
Well, and there's been a shift, I think, in the real needs. We were talking about this yesterday, and they do need non-perishable things to get into their chain immediately. They need, cans of beans and bags of rice and meat products that are canned, like tuna and chicken and things like that. But they also need cash so that they're going to have to purchase the greens, the vegetables, the breads and things like that. So it would be nice if people would consider doing both.
That's right.
Put out some canned goods and some rice and some beans, and maybe attach a check for whatever you can afford, so that they can actually work both ends of their supply chain.
That's right. And this is look, if you've got it, we'd love for you to share it. If you're in a situation where you can't, well, that's why we're raising the food and the donations in the first place, to make sure that everyone has a chance to get a decent meal, everyone has a chance to eat that night. And so, if you got it, do it. If you don't, we understand. That's what we're here for.
Now, here's something interesting that doesn't have anything to do with the food drive, but has something to do with St. George.
Okay.
Karen does a lot of research on markets and marketing and things like that. And we were watching Shark Tank the other night. And there is this lady who has invented a custom cosmetics line where you go online and you put in your age and your skin type and your hair color and what kind of humidity conditions you live in, what part of the city, country, and your race, whether you're Asian or Hispanic or Caucasian fair, Caucasian medium, black, light skin black. It's really comprehensive. And so Karen says, I'm going to see if it works like they're saying it does right now. And so the first thing you have to do is you have to type in your name and your address and your email. So the zip code box is the first thing up, and she types in 70810, and up pops Village St. George, Louisiana.
Oh, I like where we're going.
But that's really not the official name, is it?
No, it's the city of it's St. George. It's the city of St. George.
Yeah, but it popped up as the official name, Village St. George.
And so what happened after the election, I think a few of the supporters got involved and went on and started adding Village St. George was the closest designation to our city name. And so that kind of has become designated as the region, at least online.
Well, when I first moved here to go to LSU, the area that was, I guess that would be east of Segan Lane, all the way from, say, Highland to I-10, which had just recently, that stretch had just recently been connected to 12. And that area, basically Perkins was the middle of it, going toward Airline. That was officially known back then as Village St. George.
Well, we're coming full circle, Bill.
Yeah. But I thought that was very interesting.
Look, I can't wait for people to be enthused about writing St. George, Louisiana on their envelopes, on their stationery. Buy into the process.
And nothing will change with your zip code.
No, nothing will change with what you write on the envelope, because the reality is the post office delivers to zip codes, not city names.
Not city names.
So you can write Timbuktu, Louisiana on there. It's going to get delivered.
Wouldn't
Or
that
if you
be
live
fun?
within St. George and you're one of the people that was opposed, you can still write Baton Rouge.
People in
If you're in
Central
denial.
people in Central do it all the time. You're more than welcome to do that. Or hey,
It's in crayon.
well, you'll be proud to be in
Wow,
St.
dude.
George. What I anticipate is in the future you'll be so
Who can
proud.
Bill piss off today?
We're working
I'm
on
sorry, I interrupted.
It's early in the day too.
It's early.
Got a whole day ahead of him. But yeah, we're hoping people buy in and are proud of the fact they live in St. George. My example is always the Woodlands. No one wants to say they live in Houston anymore, do they?
No.
If they live in the Woodlands, they got that screaming across the back, the bumper stickers on the car. They got a sign in the yard.
I'm not in North Houston. I'm in the Woodlands.
I'm in the Woodlands. And that's exactly the feeling we want for St. George. You get to our city, you know you've gotten somewhere nice.
Well, back to what you all are doing for the food bank, which is a wonderful thing. But if you're going to have this recur, as you said, I think you need a mascot. I mean, Kevin talks about when they come out with the fire trucks to do the Christmas parade. And you got Santa Claus.
Santa's
right?
always on the fire truck. I
Right.
know.
By the way, if you need a Santa, let me know.
No, they don't need a Santa. They got that already. They got that. I think you need a dragon. And I think Lionel Rainey goes in the suit. I think he would fit. He's got the right attitude.
You need an armored knight, and you need a dragon named Sharon.
He can breathe a little fire.
You can just chase the dragon around the fire truck.
Yeah. What do you think?
That'd
It'd be a good hook.
I'm not opposed for some theatrics to raise awareness and increase donations, so it'd be something the city would consider.
You're talking about the city and wanting to better the whole. I think that it has been very, very wise to seize this opportunity to have your folks and your organizers try to help the food bank. Do you foresee, as we come out of this, because you have a lot of commercial properties that have been impacted by this? I mean, that was the big argument, the tax base from all your commercial properties, your retail, large and small and things like that. Do you see where you're going to be able to perhaps work with the federal government to recognize that area as having been badly impacted and get some funding in there?
Well, I think in the future, as the city officially gets underway, that's absolutely going to be one of the goals. You always seek whatever federal and state funding you can get for your area, because that gives you the ability to do some capital improvement projects and do some things you wouldn't otherwise do without that money. At the same time, if your city plans and runs an efficient model of government, then maybe you need to be less desperate for that federal funding. It's a luxury, not a requirement. The idea that
Here. I couldn't agree
I
more.
get very frustrated that we've now gotten in that please give me mentality with the governments. The government doesn't need those dollars to bail out. The citizens need those dollars to keep their small businesses afloat.
Well, and that's what I'm talking about, direct to citizens.
Yes.
If government needs a little help. Yeah, that's the one thing about a lot of these government fundings during good times. They have grants available, and I'll give you one that I'm very familiar with, but this also happens with other public works projects. They have grants available for airports. And the airport here in Baton Rouge has never had to put a tax on anybody. It's self-sustaining. And one of the things that made it happen that way is for years, Anthony Marino. And
That's right. I was thinking of our mutual friend.
And Ralph Hennessy used to go through the AIP program page by page every year and say, so Wichita had $85,000 they didn't use. We can use it. And they write a letter to the FAA and say, can you send it here? And they would. That's the whole thing is on behalf of your people, you may have to, do some raking and gold mine panning to,
Well, that's right.
to see what you got.
But I do think it's several steps to that process. Step one, run a better, more efficient government so you have funding in reserve. So when situations like this arise, you don't have to sit there and beg and wait for federal. You can put dollars into commerce immediately because you have a streamlined, efficient government. And then you can get paid back or you can get additional funds through federal and state funding. Just every time something happens, sticking your hand out, you're going to get in line. This time is not like a hurricane where we're the only region affected. The whole country is affected by this. So praying that federal dollars are going to come pouring in all the time, to me, is frustrating because you've got to do some other things. Put yourself in a position to where you're not going to die or have dire consequences if you don't get the handout this time. Let's do some things for ourselves as opposed to waiting for others.
Drew, is it appropriate at this time to ask about the status? I'm assuming that everything with the lawsuit is completely up in the air during COVID-19.
Well, I mean, some of the lawsuit, we're in the phase, luckily, that it's kind of moving forward either way. There's not really a court appearance per se on the horizon. We filed a writ to appeal Judge Morvance's ruling or have First Circuit look at the ruling in the exceptions hearing. So that's really the next thing for us, and it's not really prevented or stopped by COVID-19 at this point.
It's deliberation time and paperwork time.
That's right.
What about preparations to actually be a city? I mean, is that on hold as well?
That process has been ongoing since prior to the election. The reality is you don't start a city, we call it 1201. You don't wake up at 1201, City of St. George, now what do we do?
Open for business, let's
What
go.
do we do now?
Yeah.
You better be up and running. And it doesn't really matter who's appointed at that point to run the city or who eventually is elected. They need some framework and some recommendations. Hey, we've done some legwork for you. Here's some suggestions. You can use it or ignore it, but we've got you a good start, a good head start. And you can put those bids out for the initial services. You can get some of those things that you can have a municipal code ready to go. These are things that need to happen before the city starts.
Who appoints your ad hoc mayor?
Well, at this point, we're still up to the governor to appoint your interim mayor and city council until the first election. And he would have to set that first election pretty shortly thereafter.
Well, we shall see how this develops. I know everybody is focused on other things, but I'm glad you all are focusing on helping out the food bank, which, again, one of the great assets. Let's go through where St. George Fire is going to be going and picking up the food next weekend. Not this weekend,
That's right.
next weekend.
May 16th and 17th, you'll have a Saturday and Sunday. We launch at 10 a.m., roll at 10 a.m. on Saturday, and it usually is ending around 4 o'clock, depending on how the route goes. On Sunday, it's noon until about 4 o'clock, again, depending on how the route goes. It actually goes a little faster without Santa Claus.
Yeah.
He doesn't hold us up as much, not that he does.
That no good.
But it serves a very important purpose during Christmas. But for us, it rolls a little faster than usual. The volunteers will be picking up. You put your canned goods at the end of the driveway. We'll pick them up. If you have a check or a donation, you can leave that at the end of the driveway. We'll pick it up. If you want to make that donation online, it's secure. It's stgeorgelouisiana.com, or you can go directly to the food bank's website. 16th and 17th, it's the southwest of Airline Highway. Again, if you're in Jefferson Terrace, this is you. Enniswald, this is you. Westminster, this is you. And we have got a link with all the neighborhoods we hit online. And if you don't see your neighborhood, look for one next to yours, because that's your weekend.
We wanted to have you on now so that people could maybe take some time on Saturday
Get your grocery shopping done.
and get your grocery shopping done, maybe clear out the pantry, and get the things boxed up so that when you roll through, they're
That's
ready
right.
to go.
And it's like Bill said, it's a combination of food donations that we need right now, this second, to get into people's hands, and money donations that the food bank can use later to buy the things they cannot get through donations.
Tommy just asked a question about the city itself. When does the transition bill go before the Senate committee?
It is ongoing, waiting to hear for that exactly. The transition bill obviously has got to get done this month, so we're hoping that can get passed like it was last time. And
Is the governor going to find it unnecessary again this year?
Well, I would hope that the words premature wouldn't come up again, since we won an election October 12th. It would be a
It's
sad.
kind of hard to use that one.
I would think so. I think a transition bill is necessary. We've outlined why repeatedly, that we have to transfer that taxing authority, or you run the risk of losing that authority. And if you lose that authority, who's going to pay for all those services that goes with it? So it's a vital part of the process. It puts a framework in place. sadly forces us to work together since some parties don't want to, and it moves us forward where we need to be.
Well, there are those who think that when you have your meetings, you all have them in white sheets, and that's regrettable. That's a terrible, terrible thing. But
That's unfortunate. They should talk to the people we talk to and I talk to on a regular basis that come from all walks of life, races, genders, and they would find out that this is not a black or white issue. This is a better government, better city, and eventually better schools issue.
Well, I hope that people will, and this goes for everybody, tone down the rhetoric. The election has been held.
that's done.
Let's talk in terms of practical applications now and go forward. But again, Drew, again, thanks for what you all are doing.
Well, thank you.
And our buddies at St. George Fire Department, you know, we are very, very fond of them. And
What a phenomenal group.
and they come on with us quite regularly. And next weekend, if you are west of Airline Highway, right?
South and west of Airline.
South and west of Airline, your neighborhoods will be where St. George will be coming through, sirens on, so you know they're there, and just leave the food. And if you want to leave a check with it, that would be great, out at your driveway, and they'll come and grab it from you.
That's right. And if you're missing any info, come get it, stgeorgelouisiana.com.
Drew Morrell, we appreciate your being with us as always. We're going to take our little break here, refill our coffee cups, and then we'll be back on the other side with Who Can Bill Make Fun of Today?
We'll be right
There'll be
back.
somebody, you know it.
Give us 3, 4. We'll be right back.